Solomon was providing nuggets of wisdom that I believe every single human being needs to grasp, because it's going to affect some part of your life. And one thing I love about the Proverbs is that they're so real and practical. We're actually taking the time to go through this first chapter of Proverbs and look at what Solomon was actually dealing with and what he was talking to us about and how it affects our lives in very specific ways. So far we've talked about, we went back and looked at the tragic death of the then famous R&B singer Aaliyah back in 2001, August 25th, 2001. She died in a plane crash, and as the report later came out, the reason the plane crash was because, against the advice of the experts, the baggage handlers, the pilot himself, her people, her crew, overloaded the plane with too much equipment. They had so much equipment on the plane that after all the equipment was on, they could only, the plane could only handle 800 more pounds. And they put on there 9 people. And one of them was a 300-pound bodyguard. And so because the plane was overloaded, as soon as the plane took off, it immediately crashed. I mean, it crashed immediately after it took off. And so we use that, because it's really not just an analogy, that's real life situation, to talk about how in some ways we may have overloaded our planes or our lives with way more stuff than what we really can handle. What these folks really did was they violated the laws of nature. Remember all that stuff from school, physics and science and aerodynamics. You may not have taken all that stuff, but all of that stuff is real. It's real. It's based upon the laws of nature and the laws of physics. So they said these engines, this plane's design and engine can only handle a certain amount of weight. Got to understand that when these things were built, they are designed and created a certain way to handle a certain amount of weight. And because it can only go at so much speed, and it has to attain a certain amount of speed even to get up off the ground. Well, that depends upon the strength by which the engines were built and the way the plane was designed. Well, I'm saying our lives are the same way. Our hearts are the same way. Relationships are the same way. God designed everything to be able to handle a certain amount of load, a certain amount of stress. Life is supposed to be going at a certain pace. And when we violate those things, whether it's emotionally or whether it's physically, that's why things go wrong in our physical bodies. If we violate certain things in our own physical bodies, well, the results are we end up with all kinds of things going wrong internally. Diseases, stresses that happen on our body, various parts of our blood or the heart or muscles can begin to malfunction because of the way God designed things. And so when we violate the way God designed things and way he set up things, whether it's the laws of nature, the laws of the way things are supposed to happen in our bodies, the law of the way things are supposed to happen even between relationships and people, when we violate them, there's going to be a crash. There absolutely will be a crash. That's the thing that was so tragic about this plane crash, was that it was totally avoidable. This kind of got lost in the media, in the news, because just a few weeks later, 9/11 hit. So this was August the 25th, 2001. Well, just was what, 1, 2, maybe 2.5 weeks later, 9/11. So this kind of got lost in all of the news. A lot of the music industry and people was impacted, and entertainers, people that was really into music and movies and all that kind of stuff, they were really impacted by this. But, you know, a few weeks later, 9/11 hits, and nobody really, I ain't gonna say nobody, but a lot of the masses really lost touch with what really happened to this young lady. What really happened. By the time 9/11, you know, 2 or 3 months after that, then people will start, yeah, I heard that Aaliyah died in a plane crash. And they still never disconnected with that it didn't have to happen. It happened because they overloaded the plane. It devastated her family when they found out. I believe that even afterwards, of course, they sued the companies and everybody that was involved. But part of even the struggle, I'm sure, for them to win the lawsuit was probably because they kept saying, we told them the plane had too much stuff on it. Why am I saying this? Because as we looked at that scripture, that a wise man will hear. A wise man will hear. You will listen to what somebody who knows what they're talking about, you will hear it. You won't do like these folks did with this plane and just go, oh, it's okay. Oh, we'll be all right. Well, no, you're not going to be all right because this plane wasn't designed for that. Your life, that's what we're saying. Your life wasn't designed for that. Your heart wasn't designed for that, physically and spiritually. Isn't it something? We're designed a certain way. That's part of the reason why I mentioned this in the book. For a long time, we were youth pastors, and we would tell young people, we were always preaching the dangers of premarital sex outside of marriage, and homosexual sex. The reasons why, because just like with that plane, people go, oh, you just hating. Well, no, I'm not hating. I'm just telling you, your body was not designed for this. And you're loading stuff on yourself that you're going to crash. So it's not hating to tell folks the truth, to tell young people, no, don't do that. Oh, you just hating. Especially the gay community. Oh, you just hating. No, I'm not hating. You're violating the laws of nature. Just as certainly as those people loaded up that plane and violated the laws of nature. You violated the laws of gravity and aerodynamics and engineering. And you do it the same thing. So those of you who may be watching say, there's another one of those gay, those homophobic, gay, angry at gay. I'm not mad at gay folks. I'm just telling you, you're loading up your plane. So I got to say it to y'all because ain't nobody in this room gay. You're loading up your plane with weight and extra stuff that your body cannot handle. It was not designed for same sex. You were not designed that way. All you got to do is check out the parts and you know you're not designed that way. And when you violate the way God designed us, you will crash. There's no doubt about it. Now, if I was a hater, I wouldn't tell you the truth. A hater will just go ahead and let you crash. That's what a hater actually is. They don't care about your life. They don't care about the results. They don't care if whether you make those kinds of decisions. They're like, go on, kill yourself. I don't care. See, that's a hater. But one who loves you will say, just like those people did, trying to prevent Alia and her crew from getting on that plane, don't do this. That's too much weight. This plane cannot handle this. That's somebody that really cares.